Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dyad and the Force. Today, we're going to be talking about. We have some Star Wars trivia that we did, last week, which has prompted us to try and put together our own question and answer tournament. We also have our reactions to the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. We had a new book release that was recently. It's From a Certain Point of View. Empire Strikes Back, which is an excellent read, highly recommend. We have a reaction to the latest Mandalorian episode, and man, is it good. We'll let you know when we're going to talk about it, so there's no spoilers if you don't want them, but man, it's good. And yeah, we have some interesting topics, so sit back, relax, and enjoy Dyad in the Force.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another podcast. I'm your host, Element7.
And I am Darth Choco.
And we have a special guest again this week. It's Victoria, y'all.
Hi, guys. I'm Victoria. It's Victoria, y'all, on TikTok and Instagram.
And if you're not following her already, please go do. She is one of my favorite Star Wars creators, and
same,
just the best.
That's so
and
sweet.
If you're a big fan of Vader, definitely go check her out as well. Just to start off, how was everyone's Thanksgivings?
No complaints. I am doing excellent. Got some nice relaxation. I mean, I've been out of work, so every day is like Thanksgiving Day. But
every day's Thanksgiving.
But I ate more than normal, so that's good.
Did you get what you wanted? Favorite dishes?
No. We went non-standard this year, and went for fried chicken.
Oh,
Good stuff.
I actually saw an article on that on my Google feed. There was just an article that said, "Why not fried chicken for Thanksgiving?"
My mom does like a traditional like turkey with like the boots, like the, you know what I'm talking about, the white little boots. Yeah, so it's really fun just to like look at it. I know y'all are West Coast, and so you have good weather too. But in the South, since we have good weather, we can have these outdoor barbecues. So.
Did you have one?
We were able to be outside and like socially distanced with our family, and so that was really good. We didn't have everybody, of course, but just the faces we got to see was really nice.
That's cool. What about you, Choco?
Yeah, just me, the wife, and our doggo.
Suki.
My mom does live close in the area. However, she has autoimmune disorder, so better not to risk it.
I'm immunocompromised as well, and living through a pandemic with an autoimmune disease is terrifying in a way that you can't really explain to a lot of people, but yeah, it's pretty scary.
So, okay, moving on to our first topic. What happened last Sunday, Choco?
Yeah, last Sunday was fun. We had sponsored by DX Sabers. There was a trivia contest for us Star Wars creators on TikTok. We all started by taking a little quiz at the very beginning in order to figure out where we were going to be on the bracket. Element and I ended up on opposite sides, which was great.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it was destiny, right? It was fated.
The fated duel.
So spoiler alert, the finals ended up being me and Element.
Yeah. I watched it, and it was like my heart was racing. I was like, this is action packed.
My heart was racing too. I mean,
yeah.
when it got down to me and Choco, I was like, this is gonna be like it can go either way, and it's gonna come down to a question that he knows for sure and I don't know at all. Definitely was. I think you said spoiler alert already, but congratulations to Darth Choco for taking the trivia tournament. Definitely was the more knowledgeable one that day, and he won a DX Sabers. What hilt did you end up winning?
So I have not received it yet. He said he was going to send it out at the end of this month, but it's the Shadow of Revan hilt. Which it looks pretty cool. Yeah, I just have to say, it just so happened that these questions, I had like a Slumdog Millionaire type run. Like I was just rereading the first From a Certain Point of View because some of the stories kind of lead into each other. There is a story about the Dianoga in that book, and so that's how I got that question.
Where did that come from?
And then the funny part is, all the studying I did prior didn't help at all. Not a single study.
Same. None of the stuff that I was paying attention to, especially with the anthologies, didn't come up quite as much. And I was quite embarrassed, especially showing Victoria, me getting Executor wrong.
No, I was actually going to comment on that question because it made my heart like up in my throat because the Star Destroyer question, it was like, Vader Star Destroyer. Well, the Executor is a super Star Destroyer. And so I was like, well, and so I was like freaking out. And it's a 15-second time limit. And you're like, well, this and this and this. And so, yeah, it was a hard question in 15 seconds too.
Yeah.
But that leads into kind of what we've been thinking about doing this past week, which is kind of putting on our own kind of trivia showdown. I don't know if we've named it yet or if that's still up in the air, but I think we came to the conclusion that it would be at least more fair and make more sense if Choco and I would proctor our own trivia tournament so that we could self-verify all these questions, make sure that everything's on the up and up. I'm sorry, Star Wars Digest, there was a couple of questions that weren't 100% verified, particularly the Solo having a title crawl, which did not have a title crawl, but that's besides the point. I'm not here to drag anybody. But yeah, I think I'm super excited for this, primarily because, like, you know, the recent trend on TikTok, right? Like creating quizzes for everybody and taking quizzes has been super fun, and participating in Digest's trivia tournament, and of course facing off with Choco at the end, that was super fun. And then coming up with questions at the end, and I was just like, I hope Choco's like, I knew Choco was thinking this at the end as well. And so when he came to me with the idea, I was like, yeah, definitely we need to do our own trivia tournament. And I don't know if you've recruited anyone as a contestant thus far, Choco, but I definitely want to extend.
I have not recruited anyone so far. However, DX Sabers is definitely wants to sponsor this as well. So I'm going to wait till I receive my lightsaber, make sure everything's on the up and up, and maybe see if we can have multiple sponsors so we can do this right.
Ooh,
we'll get some runner-up prizes, maybe some participation trophies, although I'd like to echo some from like the holiday special participation trophies. There is not.
I love that.
But I do want to extend an invitation to, I guess, Victoria to be one of our first confirmed contestants on this trivia tournament.
Oh my goodness. I do chicken out. I would do it for you guys. I would. I chicken out, but I must warn you, I am the champion of Star Wars Weekend 2006. I was 9 years old, and everybody thought I was like 14, so they were like, oh my gosh, get her out of here. It was like, that like Jedi thing at Disney World, and it was like all these little kids, and they were like, now, what is Anakin Skywalker turn into? And you're like, what? So, I mean, I'm coming in with some street cred.
No, I have high hope. I mean, I feel pretty confident that there's probably a lot of the questions, you know, if you watched the tournament that we were just in, I feel pretty confident that you knew quite a bit of those answers.
I tell people all the time, I know nothing about Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I know a good deal about Darth Vader.
You tell yourself, though, but when the time comes, you know it. Because there was a couple of times where, like, of course, I was channeling you with Ozzel's answer. And then I was channeling I don't know what I was channeling when I brought Wicket out for that. Because I was thinking Warwick the whole time. And then, I mean, a lot of those questions, I definitely thought that, you know, people we know in Choco's Discord server, you in particular, would have done really well in that trivia tournament.
I appreciate your faith in me.
Well, I'm definitely not going to have a lack of faith in front of Victoria.
Yeah, you better not. Look at this meditation chamber.
But yeah, like, so I like just initial thoughts on the trivia. I'm definitely thinking we're going to categorize it like Jeopardy.
Oh yeah.
Just
cool.
because having that category up front is just going to help someone kind of, stir up the knowledge they need. Because if you're just going to ask straight up, what's this person's name in this movie? And you're like, wait, I was thinking of Rogue One at the time. Hold on.
Yeah, like switching tracks, like your train of thought.
I was thinking we have like a books and comics category, but since that's a little bit more esoteric, that would be like a multiple choice one. Choco, you were saying that you wanted it to kind of be this communal, collective contest, right? Where people were just gathering points and then it would kind of like thin the herd as it goes on.
Yeah. I mean, my thought, instead of it being direct head to head for each person, that, we could all have our pads or whatnot to write our answer on, but we can get more people competing. Everyone holds up theirs, and then we can go through and make a mark on everyone who got it right. And then once we hit a certain point, then we can say the bottom half is out at this point before we move on to the next round. That way we can keep more people engaged at the same time. But the real big thing that we kind of want to make sure is that it feels open. The thing I felt with this last one was that there are people that wouldn't compete because they wouldn't feel like they were up to the task. But I know a lot of the people, like we said in the Discord, who really are. They aren't people that would normally throw their hats in the ring to compete, but they would do well if they did. So I wanted to open back up and bring in the community. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think this is kind of, true for a lot of people who are about to go into an exam or a quiz, regardless of what subject matter it is. They're always thinking like, oh, did I study the right material? Would I know this? But again, a lot of those questions are formulated from the stuff you watch. So you would know it. And it's definitely surprising, having had to answer these questions this past Sunday. I was like, well, a lot of people would know this stuff. And so definitely, for sure, I'm excited that we are doing this. And I can't wait for DX Sabers to confirm.
Looks in the camera.
But yeah, I mean,
they are on board. Like I
awesome.
said, me and the runner-up in the last competition are looking to put together our own, and then I got an instant reply back, can I sponsor it?
Wow.
Awesome.
So
wow.
That's how it started.
But any idea with what they would be putting up, or are they just kind of like
again? I wanted to wait until I received my saber so I can, be confident that yes, someone, once they are going to send it out, the quality is there and all that stuff. Because, I don't want to risk that. But once we kind of broach that, then yeah, I mean, I think you and I can take a look and hopefully select what the winner will get.
Is there something that you particularly like?
What would make you want to compete?
Oh, see, I don't know. I guess I'm also, one of my thoughts was, what about all of the amazing like small business creators that are part of the Star Wars community? And I know like they're a small business, but at the same time, I think it would be a great spot for them to like show what they can do and connect with other people. So even if there's like Far Away Factory, she makes amazing Lego earrings or figure earrings, and so it's really, I don't know, I have enjoyed a lot of the people that are creators on the app getting to show their talents. Like I've bought some art from many people on the app, and so I don't know, it's because it's, I don't know.
Is that where you got
like
your?
You were saying.
Is that where you got your Vader earrings?
Yes, it. Yeah,
Okay,
from
okay.
Bedazzler.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If we could reach out to some of those creators, definitely if they have like Etsy stores and stuff like that.
I know.
For the participation trophies, maybe.
Yeah, and like Adelaide's Fort does a lot of like sweatshirts and stuff, and I think that their stuff is pretty cool. I don't know, there's lots of things that I'm blanking on right now. This is how I am in trivia. I'm like, oh gosh, my brain.
No, this
like,
is great.
I got distracted because I saw this behind my computer.
Of course. Vader do be distracting people.
He does.
Well, when he's dancing ballet, of course. That's
yeah.
You know,
that looks like one of those anatomy figures that you use for pose.
Yeah.
For pose reference.
He like, you can't see, but he like falls over really easy. Oh well.
I used to use the naked tone version of that figure to pose people and draw.
Yeah, your talents never cease, I swear.
I tried doing that with Spider-Man figures because they're always a lot more flexible, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm a terrible artist, so I can draw a Martian Manhunter really well, but that's it.
I chalk it up to being Filipino. I'm sorry. We're just always exploring art, that's all.
I really like what you said about categorizing it like Jeopardy, and so people can like categorize it in their brain. And I liked what you said about it being like a communal thing, because that's what I found from like the quizzes. I was learning so much, and I didn't, yes, a lot of them I didn't take like publicly or like post my answers because I was just so nervous. And I'm one of those people that would immediately chicken out if I was asked to do trivia, but I care about you guys, and so I would do it for you. But
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I chicken out real quick. So getting to like see everybody do their own quizzes and like what they're confident with, and like there was like a Kanan Jarrus quiz. There was like Ahsoka. There was like so many people in their own special interests within Star Wars, and I thought that was really a cool way to like connect and learn something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, I'm really glad you guys are doing this.
Especially when like, you know, when you make your own quiz on Vader, there's some stuff in there that people just like never even
Everybody was so
about.
mad. No, everybody was so mad. I got so many comments like, why would anyone want to know this? And I was like, I'm sorry, I like knowing it.
There were a couple of disgruntled people as well when I did my quiz for you. They were like, how are we supposed to know this? It's like, no, this is designed for the Vader fan. So if you don't know this, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure she does, and she did.
No, I almost hit the panic button on the ender. I was like, where is it in my brain? But
well, I knew you were going to get it.
It was so fun.
I was more surprised with Choco.
It was
No,
tough
I love
quiz,
it.
man. Tough quiz.
It was tough. It was. And yeah. But yeah, I think that's what my favorite thing about the trivia was. I am a panic test taker. I don't like it. And so getting to like reframe my brain about Star Wars, because I was not wanting to even talk about it on TikTok for the longest time until I saw both of you guys. And I was like, wow, like that's really amazing what they do. And they're really passionate about the material they're speaking about. And so I don't know, like, I think that's like a lot of people are in my shoes, and I wanted to make it accessible for people with my own channel, because like when you say Star Wars lore, it's like a really intimidating thing because there's so much that you don't even want to take the first step. But it's like Obi-Wan, first step into a larger world. And yeah, my first step was following creators that were supporting me in my own journey and like positively learning about Star Wars. And so I don't know, I think that's something really awesome that you guys are going to do. So yay, trivia.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But the most important thing is that at the end of the day, we're all fans. We're all having fun. We all love this and care for each other. You know, we don't need to take it too seriously, and that's really, we would love and respect the material, but it's not that serious. And I actually love that we're starting to get a lot more of that just into our world.
Yes.
Did you guys all check out the Star Wars holiday special?
Absolutely.
Yes.
See, I've been sleeping on Lego Star Wars. You know, I've seen like the other Lego stuff, but not particularly Star Wars. But this one surprised the heck out of me, in particular because we've been talking about your we've been talking about your dream pitch, your dream show for the last couple of weeks. And just the way this thing started, I was like, yo, he's like about to get this made in just a short special. I thought it was hilarious. I loved how everything. Well, first of all, Rey is a Jedi Master, canonically. But I also like how we got to see, Finn start his training, and just, again, Rey's own struggles and her own self-doubt about how she's going about training. And, this is the burden of all masters, right? But I had this thought when I was watching it. When this certain thing happened, I was thinking of Vic and the panels that she has a hard time getting past.
I have that in my notes.
And I'm wondering what was your thoughts, or like, did you approach that the same way as the panels?
Okay. So I laughed in that, but then I cried. Like, Lego Star Wars was not supposed to be that deep. But when Darth Vader gave him the coffee mug and he throws it away, I immediately, tears started flowing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I still am having residual effects from the 2020 Vader comics. But yeah, I so often, I guess, fan art and things like that depict them as BFFs, and it's they're not friends at all. They are not friends on any plane of existence, not even in Lego Star Wars. And so it was actually pretty heavy. And I made a frowny face next to that. I said, Vader's treatment face.
Yeah. When he got zappity zapped.
Oh, I lost it. I'm telling you, I looked away. I went, I can't watch.
And that was a literal recreation of the comic panels, almost.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
And so then I had to, sit down. My partner was watching it with me. I was like, all right, so now you gotta read these comics so you can understand why I was crying in the middle of Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. Because
they understand?
Well, now they do, yes. But at the time, when somebody's sitting next to you and it's a Lego Star Wars Holiday Special and they're ugly crying and you're like, I don't quite understand this. So, yeah. But
it's like
I
Choco
will say,
said, it's not that serious, but then in your heart, it is. Yeah.
It is. I can't handle it. When anybody's mean to him, I'm like, catch these hands. And not that I can even do anything. I'm so non-confrontational. But yeah, it was pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie. But I was laughing. My favorite joke was when Lando was like, please be a cape, please be a cape.
It's a wrap.
Admiral Akbar. I lost my mind. It was so funny. It's a wrap.
I mean, everyone had just amazing chemistry with each other.
Yeah.
Just being fun. And like I said in our previous episode when we were reacting to the trailers, this is how Star Wars fans should be.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a family around the tip taps, the tip yaps,
the tip yip,
Tip yip,
and just kind of having fun and laughing, smiling.
It definitely hits you in the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
And trying to bring all of them together, and all of the trilogies together. Yeah. And kind of draw the through lines between all of them and make it obvious that, hey, this is all one.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, having all three Obi-Wans hello there was just beautiful.
That was everything.
Everybody just transcended to another plane. It was like, yes.
I kind of wanted that
Darth
that
Maul
one
not
scene.
having legs.
Yes,
oh my gosh,
that was so funny.
That whole battle too, I was just like, dang, they really went there. From Qui-Gon to Padawan Obi-Wan to old Obi-Wan, old Luke, young Luke. And I kind of wanted when they were in the Jedi Temple elevator on Coruscant, and Rey showed up, and the first time that Obi-Wan said hello there, and she said hi, and then just disappeared. I kind of wanted him to say something to that effect. He's like, what, not General Kenobi or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been good.
There's so many like interactions in this that just kind of make you think about. Choco said, like, this is gonna be the byline for Dyad and Force. Like Choco said, it's not that serious. Seeing Kylo Ren do like a cabaret dance.
They had to do the Ben Swallow joke.
Yeah.
They just had to put it there.
So Hux's reaction, is that additional representation? Is that confirmed?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gave me those vibes. He was not carrying himself very well there.
There was no chill.
No, not at all. It could very well be. I don't know. Is this canon? I don't think this is canon at all. But just the way he was kind of, fumbling his words and doing double takes and kind of, at the corner of his eye, looking back at it and not really, like just like I can't stop looking at it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. So one thing I liked, I haven't watched a ton of Lego Star Wars other than the holiday special, but in the one I did, Darth Vader was drinking coffee through his mask, and that made me laugh so hard because I think it's like the third draft of A New Hope, there was an interrogation scene, and he was drinking. He used the Force to drink from a flask while he was interrogating Leia, and so it was like, could he drink through his mask, or could he at that time take it off more easily and readily? And so I laughed really hard about that. Obviously, I thought too hard into it, but it was funny. And then, like, what you were saying about connecting all the trilogies, like, in a very, like, meta way, I hadn't thought about that. But it did, it felt like that in even a subconscious level. Yeah. That, like, all of these stories are getting braided together, and it's just Star Wars. It's not this divisive thing. It's yes, you like what you like, and your favorites are your favorites, but it's everything. Like it's all in this beautiful bow, and we all can enjoy different parts of it.
Yeah,
and I really do think that Lego is a great equalizer. I mean, talking to Justin, he actually got into Star Wars from playing the Lego game. Apparently, that is very common. And I think that's awesome. And so where we get to go with that is we're going to have a new Lego saga that's going to tie everything together. That's being released later this year. And I wonder how that is going to affect everything and everyone going forward. I'm excited.
Later this year or next year?
Sorry, next year. Later, like within a year from today.
That's a short amount of time to do that.
But still, yeah, and I also am now kicking myself because I have never played a Lego game, and this is the first Lego movie I've ever seen. So I've been missing out, apparently.
Yeah, this was my first Lego Star Wars experience, and I was not let down. Going back to the fight between Rey and Vader, and then Vader, and having that Spider-Man moment.
That was so funny.
There's so much in this special that's just really kind of like lets loose and just doesn't really anybody who kind of brings up this holiday special in a toxic way, like Rey wouldn't be able to hold up against Vader, and I'm just like, Rey wouldn't be able to go back in time either. This is just Lego Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm just letting y'all know I'm ready for it. I'm ready for a lot of things that come about in this in the aftermath of this holiday special.
We're just here to have some fun,
We really are. We really are.
Yeah, I mean, Rey also wouldn't be able to take off her hair as one unit. You know what I mean? So.
Yes. That's one of those Form 9 movements, right?
Actually, there's one other moment that just made me chuckle, and it's something I totally don't think about, but it's when the clone troopers are on the speeder bikes.
Yeah. It's almost as if we're the same person.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, clone jokes.
I mean, I wish I could bring up every single moment. I think like just the whole 47 minutes of this special was just special. Like every single moment brought a smile to my face. I was actually laughing at the jokes. And that's not something I would particularly do in Star Wars, is particularly when Star Wars has some kind of like forced levity in their movies. Like I'd be like, that was a little cheesy. Well, I was genuinely laughing at every single joke that this special was throwing at me. It was great.
Yeah, it made you look at a lot of these different time periods and things with just a different perspective of how, you know, seeing how hype Obi-Wan was when he was young, but that's kind of how he was, you know. It's cool to get a different perspective on these, you know, periods of time and characters that we know and love, and how the end result is the friendship is the most important part for growing.
A particularly heartwarming moment for me was when and I may be totally making this up in my brain, because I tend to do this. Like right after a movie, I'll think about something so hard that it ends up being reality in my brain. But when they were doing like the dichotomy in the throne room between Return of the Jedi Luke and Farm Boy Luke, and they were kind of like, he who's not a Jedi master, or like not a great Jedi Knight, and he's like, he will be. Did I make that up? I probably did, but maybe it was in my head.
No, I mean, that's kind of what Rey says at a point.
I think she says not yet, right?
Yeah, not yet, or something to that effect. And just the insinuation that this person can grow into this amazing Jedi. It was just really heartwarming because, like, I mean, we started out with a movie in 1977 that was pretty obscure, and now we're here. And just like, you know, looking back at yourself, looking, you know, forward at what you can be. It's just Star Wars. Yes, it's like all fun and games, but it has serious implications as well. And I think that there are like things we can take that like into this new year that's really heartwarming and promising, like gives us hope.
Yeah, the special was like super wholesome.
Yeah, so
and
wholesome.
Rey's interaction with everybody from the past trilogies, I think, like surprisingly worked 100%.
No.
And just her dynamic with everyone from the past, even Palpatine and Vader, was incredible to watch.
Having Kelly Marie Tran come back and actually do more stuff, you know, I enjoyed that.
Was that John Boyega coming back?
No, it wasn't John Boyega reprising his role, but that was Kelly Marie Tran reprising hers.
Was Oscar Isaac reprising as well?
No. No, a lot of them were different people.
I mean, that's a bummer. If you want like an animated series to kind of like, you know, bridge that post Rise of Skywalker gap, and just give people that training Finn and the story afterwards, and seeing if anybody would come back. Do you think any of them would come back if that was actually a thing instead of a rumor?
I don't think anyone's going to come back for 10 years.
Yeah, what if it was just like animated and they just needed their voices?
I mean, I could see it for video games, because John Boyega was really into coming back for Battlefront 2. But yeah, maybe, you know, if they dangle the carrot enough. But sadly, this fandom has not treated its actors well. And that's a huge problem. It was fun. It makes me excited for the Lego game when it comes out. I will be getting it and streaming it. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, you know, seeing things from a different perspective was just really cool. And while we're on the topic of seeing things from different perspectives, we also got a new book release that I've had a lot of fun reading. I'm curious to your guys' thoughts on, from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, great job, King of Segways since the beginning.
Yep.
This book is like a solid 20 out of 10. I'm not finished reading it, but from what I've read thus far, I'm enjoying a lot of the new perspectives that we're seeing, and I'm just going to kind of, touch on a few of them. First of all, we finally have a canon reference to Luke's training time on Dagobah, right? Mm-hmm. So before this, all of the best lore masters would line up the timeline with Bespin and Millennium Falcon and when he landed on Dagobah and when he left to go save them. Anywhere from 6 hours to 6 months. That was the range. And now we finally have it for all of you guys out there wondering how long Luke was on Dagobah. It was a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And according to Obi-Wan, he did not train with lightsabers. He kind of just, swinging from vines and doing handstands and lifting rocks with Yoda seems like his holistic view of what Luke learned. And then he goes on to be a Jedi Knight in Return of the Jedi. So it's kind of like, I don't know if it's adding fuel to the fire or if it's kind of kicking sand into the fire. I just wanted to touch on that really quick. I mean,
no, absolutely, because I actually made a comment on that in one of my recent No Nuance November takes. That doing flips over branches and lifting rocks is not training in lightsaber combat. Not that we need it. Always training is, especially when you go back to Luke's first training session aboard the Millennium Falcon. What was his lesson? It was learning to trust his instincts, to trust his feelings, to feel and not think. That's what it's always been about. That's your connection to the Force, because it's not you doing this. You're letting the Force flow through you and guide your actions, and have, you're listening to the Force. All that training helps you do that, and that's how you win in the lightsaber combat, because you're listening to the Force and letting it guide your actions.
Yeah, the lightsaber is an extension of you. And and since we're talking about this, I definitely want to know, Vix, were you able to read There's Always Another?
No, that's the one I did the very beginning, and I skipped around. Yeah. You knew I went straight to Lord Vader will see you now. That was my first one. Yeah,
I definitely knew. I saw that. I was like, I'm gonna skip that one and let Vic do that one. But just real quick, since
I didn't get that one.
Real quick, since we're on the subject anyway, in this chapter, Choco, I just brief summarization of how feisty Obi-Wan is as a Force ghost.
Oh man, it was just the best. He's like, man, always gotta come back for these GD Skywalkers. Like, they're always throwing fits. I thought once I died, I wouldn't have to deal with this anymore. Pretty much is his perspective, and I'm here for it, because one of the best things is sometimes we forget about what do the characters know. You know what I mean? Like, we know the whole story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do the characters? Because I just naturally assumed that Yoda and Obi-Wan all knew the same stuff, but
yeah,
that doesn't make sense. Why would they? And Obi-Wan doesn't necessarily agree with all Yoda's training things, and vice versa. They're still very two different individuals, and it's interesting to see some of these things from Obi-Wan's separate perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Also in that, because that is my favorite story in the book personally, but we had someone from Legends, Siritachi, referenced. And Obi-Wan had a little thing for her back in the Jedi Temple, so she is canon now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the thing that touched my heart was, I did share it on TikTok too, but when Obi-Wan says that how Anakin had abandonment issues, right? Because he left his mom, and then the person he left his mom to train with died shortly after. And Obi-Wan said that as when he first took Anakin to train with him, that sometimes he'd wake up in the middle of the night and Anakin would be asleep on the floor next to his bed because Anakin was terrified that he'd wake up and Obi-Wan wouldn't be there. I'm like,
I said I would cry on this podcast.
You may do as you please, as the feelings come and flow over you.
No, I saw your TikTok on this, and I was like, I'm gonna prep so that I don't cry when you mention it on the podcast. And so I watched it like 10 times in a row, trying to like desensitize myself. And I was like, Anakin slept next to Obi-Wan's bed in the floor so that he would, because he had abandonment issues. I would start crying again. That's so sad. Gosh,
it really is. But
and people say it and struggle.
The added depth is just great.
Yeah. So
I
much
love
added
this
depth.
story. I mean, especially with how crass he is, just as a ghost. He's like, I thought I'd have peace if I was dead, and then now he's just like, he's throwing Anakin under the bus. He's talking about all the things he used to do and how dirty he used to be, and now he's got his son to look after, and then, you know, all of these like points of views in this book is turning out to be incredible looks into the in-between, which is what I call these stories. Particularly, like, just really quickly, and I won't talk too much about it. Like, there's this one story about a Chase Wilser who is the guy who walks in between, and I went back to watch that scene. The guy who walks in between Han and Leia as she's saying, we need you, you're a natural leader. And then he's like, you could use a kiss. And he's the guy carrying the crate, walking in between them as they're doing it. I was like, this is crazy. Like, you know, the same thing that happened when I read Lost Stars. I was seeing things differently, and I was seeing Thane in the Battle of Hoth. And now, from now on, when I watch Empire Strikes Back, that's Chase. He knows his calf routes. Oh, man.
Oh, man. His story was great.
I loved that
too.
one. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, I mean, I know we jumped straight into the story, but for anyone that is not familiar with it, from a certain point of view, it's like a book series that they're doing where it follows the story from a movie, from one of the films, but it jumps perspectives to different people that are interacting with the film. So it's being told from a certain point of view, a different perspective. So they did one for A New Hope already, and so we got this one. I am looking forward to them continuing this trend, but
absolutely,
it jumps around quite a bit. We get the operator who sent out the probe droids. We get her perspective. We get a Tauntaun's perspective. We get a Wampa's perspective. We get random P soldiers on the base. We have there's a Wilro Hood story. We find out all about that dude. It's really cool. There's
I read the Wampa perspective, and I was like, yo, why do they have to make Luke look like a bad guy right now?
Same. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, oh, my heart. But
I knew that, you know, the creatures would have their own families.
Like they're sentient. Yes. The thing that got me, and you know it's coming.
Yeah.
The Ozzel story.
I haven't read it, but
I was waiting to hear your perspective on it.
Okay, so I will preface this with, I have made many a TikToks about how I hate this man, and everybody has kind of picked up on that. They're like, haha, Victoria hates Ozzel. Victoria hates Ozzel, because I try not to ever say anything negative on my page. There was one day I was watching Empire Strikes Back, and Ozzel does that little smirk, and he goes, there's so many uncharted settlements, my lord. And I'm like, mansplain to Darth Vader one more time. But I was just like, oh gosh, I hate this guy. He's the guy that takes his shoes off on a commercial flight. He's the guy that warms up fish in a community microwave. And like, I was like, this guy, you know, man spreads on public transportation. I was like going all on into this guy. There's a story called Kendall, and that's his first name, Kendall Ozzel. And it's his perspective during this beautiful scene when he's getting force choked via the hollow net or something. And it's just every thought that goes through his mind before his death. And it was some really deep things that get you thinking. It humanizes him in a lot of ways, which obviously that's a perspective, like from a certain point of view, this is a perspective I had never thought of before. And I mean, sure, I was like, yeah, he's a human being, but there was a quote that really stood out to me and I wanted to share. It says, authoritarians do not announce themselves and knock down your door. They're invited in. And so he's kind of rethinking in his last moments his allegiance to the Empire. There's a lot of theories, and you mentioned this in one of your comments, that he was a rebel sympathizer. And his fiance, when he's going to leave, spoiler, I'm sorry, but his fiance, when he's going to leave and join up with the Empire, says, join the rebel forces. And he says no, or he doesn't say anything. So I'm sorry, he doesn't say anything, but he joins the Empire. And then he's like, I'm not alone in my complicity, but it doesn't excuse it. And he just kind of begins to find those moments of like remembering who he was. And there's a long run of like, this is what all the Empire has taken from me. And he says, he gave it, but they took it. And so it's just a really, really interesting look at him. He views his death as a humiliation because Darth Vader didn't even have, the time of day to go kill him in person. He was like, I'll just do this via Zoom call. So it was a different perspective that I was not ready for. But the moment I saw in the chapter titles Kendall, I was like, I gotta hear this. But then I like sat down for a second. I was like, I hate this character. I really do. I hate this character. But it's really interesting to see things from their point of view for a second. Yeah, and then some of the other stories that stood out while I'm kind of on the topic was the Lord Vader will see you now. Did you guys read that one?
I have not.
Yes, yeah, I did read that.
That one was a really good one because it kind of touches on when Piet sees the bounty hunters. He's like, bounty hunters, we don't need those scum. And it kind of like talks about that it was a humiliating moment for Piet, and it kind of goes into the backstory of why Darth Vader ultimately made that decision for to hire the bounty hunters.
Yeah, feel free to talk about it, guys. Like, don't worry about spoilers. I'm gonna read it.
Sorry.
It's wonderful, and so finding more about Piet was awesome. But we also jump into the perspective of those bounty hunters who were standing there, which I think I said, last week. Maybe was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Like, what were their stories? Where did they come from before coming to this meeting? Lo and behold, we actually got that. Bosk has a story that's kind of touching in a very odd way.
Chrysanthemum was one of them, right?
Yes, yeah, he was one of them.
Was his perspective all in Treewood?
No, it was his perspective wasn't told in the story, but we did see him being present. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say I liked seeing Piet on the other side because he's usually the one that was kind of the almost like a know-it-all, and he's like the brownie points. I've got this information and here it is because I'm the star student. And so seeing someone else kind of come in with like the save was and see Piet kind of caught like, oh god. It was interesting. It was kind of cool. And then the what does he eat story. To jog it down.
Yes.
So I like joke all the time. I was like, all he wanted was a nice brunch. Y'all couldn't even sit down. But it was a good one. Because it was like, I'm sorry, I got distracted. My brain went off. What were we talking about? Oh, the what does he eat? So it was a good one because it's talking about like how does a chef prepare something for Darth Vader?
Being awakened in the middle of the night of like, okay, you have to make something.
And here's
because Vader's here, and like, how? what do you want me to make? And then hearing them as a Deveronian talk about like, okay, well these are all humans, so should I make something that's just bland? No. If this is gonna be my last thing, then maybe I should make something incredible. And then one of them was like, well, this is a pretty bad person. You should probably poison him too.
I know
like,
that was.
I don't know if he eats.
Yeah. And one thing that got me was Lando cracking on Darth Vader's outfit.
He would.
And then the chef, I am so bad with names if I don't write them down. But the chef was like, says the guy in a cape, and he's like,
Yeah.
mine's better. I was like, Lando.
That's what makes this book so interesting and so special, right? Because we watch all of these movies and we do our best when we meet these characters. We do our best to insert ourselves into their shoes and see their perspective. Because, right, if you have empathy, that's what you do. You try to figure out what they're thinking and what their motivations are. But like, this book is giving us perspectives that we hadn't even thought of, like the operators in the Project Swarm, and the guy that walks in between Han and Solo, and Obi-Wan, who people have sort of like Jesus-ified almost. Yet
he did that himself in episode 2.
The mullet.
You have done that yourself.
But in terms of like a perspective or at least an outlook on somebody, I certainly didn't expect to read that, his attitude as the Force goes and be like that. And so that was refreshing. I guess maybe some people would be offended to learn that. I don't know. But I loved seeing a new side of Obi-Wan that was more akin to his Padawan Obi-Wan attitude. All these stories about, such ancillary characters that don't really get the time of day or wouldn't really make sense to the overall narrative of the movies, but these are all very interesting stories and perspectives.
I really liked The Eyes of the Empire. I know that was one of the early ones. It just being about a probe droid and like the almost personification of the eyes. And I thought that was really beautiful and very touching, and how like at the very end, that was like a very like game-changing decision to erase Dagobah or whatever.
That was.
I was listening to. I told you guys, I was listening to all these stories on 2.1x because like that's how fast my brain needed to go. And so I was like, so I missed a couple details, but yeah, when she erased Dagobah, I was like, that's game-changing.
Yeah. I mean, it goes along with a lot of the stories that we read that are coming from perspectives from within the Empire, right? Like this girl dreams of kind of space travel and going to all of these places, and she's kind of using this probe droid as her eyes to visit all of these places. And I don't like when they were reporting that they had found Hoth, I was like, oh, that's what's happening right now, because like she had only hinted at like the snow and the ice, and then she found metal that was clearly not natural. And then I mean, just that story is incredible as well, just knowing that they actually did find Dagobah, but that girl was just like, nope, on to the next one.
There's so many layers. There's, like you were saying, like seeing stories within the Empire, there's so many layers to the Empire that we're just starting to pull back with things like Lost Stars, with things like with things like other things that I can't get to my brain right now. But I mean, it's definitely a lot of little people that might be good, but they're just doing their job. And ultimately it makes it into this consolidation of power and this terrible machine. But it's a lot of good people just doing their job. And I think but then that little decision she made something better. And I don't know, things like that kind of stood out to me.
It also gives us an answer.
Talking about how she was looking through the eyes of this probe droid after the Battle of Hoth, and seeing all this death and knowing I am complicit in this. They listened to my words, and now all these people on both sides are dead, and that doesn't feel good. She just wants to explore places.
Yeah.
It's like in the Ozzel story when he was like, how will they remember this in history? And he remembers like at the very beginning of the Zoom call he's starting like, oh, they won't remember me at all. And then he begins to realize they're going to remember me as somebody that consolidated power into this awful empire. They're going to remember me as complicit. They're going to not remember me as this little boy with a mom and a future and a nice cooked meal and all of these things. And he was talking about like the empire promised order and stability. And like stability is something like a lot of people sell their souls for. And I don't know, it's heavy stuff. I mean, yes, Star Wars is fun, like we keep saying, and don't take it so serious, but there are some things that definitely make you ready to take on things.
Yeah, I mean, well, my wife and I watched V for Vendetta last night. Hadn't seen that movie in a long time, and yeah, rewatching it, I was like, this is how they must have felt as the Empire took over, and this is also how America feels in 2020.
Yeah.
Highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen it watches it, and if you have seen it, rewatch it. It'll, and with that mental context added. But it's that was another concept I was talking about in Lost Stars of can a good person work for this bad empire, and what you end up coming out with is what happens is they make you compromise just one more time. And it keeps happening until you cross a line that you can't come back from, and at that point then you are part of the machine. It's scary because it is heavy, and it's true, you know, we can do this in our real lives, but that's why fiction is such an important part of literature, is because it can help you divorce yourself from your surroundings and learn an objective lesson.
No, yeah, I actually shed some real human tears on that Ozzel story.
Yeah.
Because I actually felt like guilty for hating him. I still hate him. I still hate him.
I mean,
but there's a little tinge of guilt there.
Yeah. I mean, just knowing their thoughts in one particular moment's not going to change much.
Right. I mean, he still messed up. He still did terrible things. But I don't know. I wrote down a lot of random notes on that story, like how they took all his possible lives. That hit me. That hit me. Like not just the life he led, but like all these these branching realities were gone because he gave himself to the Empire. I can't wait to dive into the rest of this.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you once this is all.
I know.
I ended on The Disturbance. That's the next one I'm reading.
Did you do it like in order?
No. I'm jumping back and
around.
forth with the titles that interest me.
You can't judge a book by its title, though.
I do.
But the Disturbance, I believe that is the one that's from the perspective of the Force Virgins on Dagobah.
Interesting.
So a lot of fascinating lore that comes out of that.
What about the This Is No Cave? Did you? Because that was the one I was going to go to next, but I didn't get to. Did you get to that one?
Yes, that one is from the point of view of the Exegor, and it's really interesting. It's a fascinating read. It's along the lines of the Dianoga story from the previous book. So it's not going to be, quite as important, but
yeah, I was just interested.
Yeah,
you got Tauntaun and Wampa perspectives. This is going to have it all.
No.
This one it's a bit more epic than those stories. You're like a worm that's eternal, and it's actually somewhat heartbreaking too. Victoria, you might cry on this one.
Oh no. Resident crybaby.
I mean, my final verdict is that this is better than A New Hope one, and that as many people who have Empire Strikes Back as their favorite Star Wars movie, like I myself do, highly recommend this read. But sorry, Victoria?
I was gonna say the exact same thing, but not as well spoken. I was gonna say everyone that loves Empire Strikes Back will love this book, especially anybody that's ever looking into the background or looking around or wanting to build a deeper, more rich and lush world in Star Wars. I think this is an excellent read.
Yeah. If you ever wanted to look at Empire Strikes Back in a different light, this is the book for you.
If you want to know why Wilbur Hood was running like he was, and what was in that thing, read this book. You know, it gives you all the dirty details.
All right. The final topic of this podcast. What do you have for us, Choco?
So right before I made a meme like right before this, and so I actually sent it in our Discord for this podcast. If anyone wants to take a look real quick.
I took a look earlier and I was trying not to laugh.
Give me a second. Oh gosh, don't wait on me.
I was thinking that. Well, not exactly that. I was like, what? Like, I wonder what happened between then and now, where she's going by Jedi.
Yeah. I heard
just the pose.
I'd heard some complaints about that, so I decided I would fix it for the community and put something a little more accurate.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. The hands on the hip pose.
This party's over. But I think at this point they were using Jedi kind of like as a gestalt almost, not necessarily, this is the Jedi that he's searching out,
like saying every tissue is a Kleenex.
Yeah, basically. I think of course right now I think she knows she's not one. I think everyone knows she's not one, but we are discussing, of course, Mandalorian Chapter 13, The Jedi. And if you have not seen it, this is heavy spoiler territory. Leave now, or forever hold your peace. Ahsoka. Last week I thought I was gonna melt in my chair, but when I watched it, the way they did it, I wasn't even prepared to melt in my chair because I had sunk into my seat. I was like, okay, I'm ready for this episode. I'm mentally prepared. And then two white lightsabers come out. I'm like, what's going on? They're just doing this right now. I did not expect it.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. I mean, I was half expecting in episode 7 where she appears at the very end of the episode, and we have to wait another week. But no, they started off with her and just jumped right into the story.
They were like, y'all have waited long enough. First 10 seconds.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy that they did. I think so what we were talking about earlier with them referring to her as a Jedi, where we know that the iconic line is "I'm no Jedi," and I gotta wonder, because it's been a few years, where is she at? Yes, she was saying "I'm no Jedi." Chronologically, it was first to Maul, and then later to Vader. But that's the last time we've seen her.
Yes.
So she finds out that Anakin is Vader. That's a heavy thing to unpack, and this is years after that. So it's highly, I wonder if at this point in time, she thinks back on all the times that they defied the rules and stuff like that, and does she think, well, crap, they were right? She kind of talks a little bit about seeing the best of them fall. I'm curious on where she feels internally with that whole "I'm no Jedi" struggle. Has she come to terms with it more now, knowing that Anakin's actions have led him to where he was?
I certainly think that she's found peace with it.
I was gonna say the same.
Because, like, you know, obviously when we last saw her, she wasn't a Jedi, but in this timeline, a lot of things have happened, and she's now naming Tython. Like an ancient. This is from Legends now, and this is now canon. Like in Legends, this was the first Jedi planet or first Jedi temple, and now it's canon. Octo has taken the place of the first Jedi temple, and I think Tython now is just an ancient kind of old Republic Jedi temple. And I think at this point she has, in her travails or travels, learned a lot about maybe the Ashla and the Bogan, and has come to terms with at least a definition of a Jedi that she can be at peace with. And then, of course, there's also the possibility that she has met Luke. Not necessarily training under him, because if anything, she'd be training Luke. But I think if she has any sense of what Luke is trying to do, she may, you know, choose to affiliate herself with his Jedi and be kind of like this Barish Vow type of person where she's just off traveling, doing her own thing, and not really concerning herself with Luke's Jedi Order.
There was, like we said, there's so much to unpack with this episode, but there's a lot of possibilities of where she is, where she's been. But the ultimate, you know, the end reveal of where's her master, where is Thrawn, leads me to believe if Thrawn has been found, where's Ezra?
Yeah.
Where, you know?
Yeah, where are you?
Yeah, we talked about this last week too. I think we hinted at like a possible Thrawn drop, right? So wherever Thrawn is, Ezra is. And now I have to address this right now. How do you take your payments?
Yeah, you know, Venmo, Cash App, it doesn't matter. PayPal.
I'll Venmo.
So y'all had a bet going.
Yes. Last week we had a no nuance bet.
Oh.
Sabine was going to be with Ahsoka, was me. And he said no. So, simply put, I lost. But there's hope
Sadly,
yet.
you know.
There's hope yet. Dropping Thrawn, the fact that a Jedi could answer the call of the child, Grogu. There's where Thrawn is, there's Ezra. Where Ezra is, there's Sabine. Where Ahsoka is, there's Sabine. So we could see Sabine and Ezra at the same time. Like, you know, where this story diverges, or not diverges, converges with Thrawn, we have to see everyone that's involved, that has been involved with Thrawn.
Right.
So we're going to see Bo-Katan with the Darksaber convergence. And then I have no doubt in my mind we're going to see Sabine and Ezra with the convergence on Thrawn with that story. I don't know if I'm ready to make another bet.
No. We have opened up too many possibilities here for me to feel comfortable with any of these. You know what I mean? I know you were, I don't know if it was you that was saying, or maybe it was someone else, that with Thrawn back in the picture, that could potentially mean that that Moff Gideon is answering to Thrawn. But I think maybe not. Was Thrawn ever truly loyal to the Empire? I mean, his true loyalties are with the Chiss Ascendancy. So, you know, what could he potentially be planning? I know. I mean, there's just a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. It's very complex. Like, I was mentioning this, I think, in the Discord, but I'm happy. I'm very relieved with a Thrawn reveal, because it gives the possibility for an even bigger bad than Moff Gideon. And while I think Moff Gideon has done an excellent job for the purpose that Moff Gideon was, I think we need a Thrawn. And you know me, I always need a villain. But I think we need a Thrawn. We need something with like that gray area. Like, what are you fighting for? Exactly, you know, that kind of thing. I think that'll be amazing. Like you were talking about the converging of stories. And I know, like, this is totally off topic, but like the Lego Star Wars does. It's braiding material together. I think the Mandalorian is doing that same service. It's braiding so much material together. And I know there have been some, you know, negative moments of like, oh, this is a cameo fest. It would make less sense if it wasn't a cameo fest, because it's a story that these people are close to. And so I think that was kind of my feelings on it. It felt very natural to see Ahsoka. Yes, it still made me like, but it felt very natural to see her. It felt very natural to hear these names, even though they did still like knock my socks off, you know? So
yeah, all of the cameos that we had in Rebels made sense too. It's just because you're not going to be able to get an isolated and a siloed story out of a galaxy far, far away, because everyone that's at least close to these conflicts, close to these narratives that involve the Empire and the Rebellion and the Resistance, you're always going to get these people who have been key to the story. So when you're going to introduce Darksaber, when I first saw the Darksaber, I was like, we're going to see Bo-Katan, and this is going to be for a story purpose. This isn't going to be for a cameo purpose. And by proxy, we're going to see Sabine, and then by proxy, we're going to see Ahsoka, because he needs to find a Jedi for the child. And, you know, Sabine was last with Ahsoka. So, like, I don't foresee any more cameos of the level of Ahsoka, but we are going to get more people that we know in the universe who are close to this conflict. And in terms of if Thrawn is working for the Empire, I don't even think Gideon is working for the Empire, because I think at this point in time, right, Palpatine has already enacted his contingency. He's already in Exegol. And so whatever remains of the Empire, I think these are just, especially since he's just a Moff, right? I think there's just a couple of, you know, Moff level Imperials vying for power in a vacuum, and Moff is just one of them. And I think even if Thrawn ends up being the big bad above Gideon, he doesn't have to work for the Empire to do so. He's just taking up the scraps of the Empire and saying, y'all need someone to follow. I'll give you that someone to follow.
All right, I need a fan cast for Thrawn.
I mean, I think we're all okay with Lars Mikkelsen, right? His voice actor.
Yeah,
he looks like it. I would also love to see Mads do it too, but that's just me. Lars voice, Mads face.
No, definitely. I mean, especially considering because it has been a few years. Just in my head, I see. I don't know why. Lately, I've been seeing Michael Fassbender.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
I was saying we need someone like with old Hollywood horror type power. Like
who are you thinking?
I don't know. I honestly don't know any celebrities' names. So I'm real. Like you're saying these names, I'm like, yeah, they'd be great. They would be awesome. But I don't know who they are.
Michael Fassbender, he was Magneto in the X-Men movies, the newer X-Men movies, like from First Class and stuff. You don't? You still don't know?
I'm getting my geek card revoked. Goodbye.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I do have to say though, when you say old Hollywood horror vibes, I can only think of Vincent Price, and that would
like Peter Cushing, like a Peter Cushing. Yeah. You know, like Tarkin. That's what I love Tarkin though.
They have similar speech patterns, almost. You know, but if it, you know, just like Bo-Katan, if we can get someone who's done the voice to do the body, I think Lars would do an excellent job. Michael Fassbender has the look, the definite look, and he can talk like him as well.
Well, while we're on that topic, I mean, how do you guys think Rosario Dawson did?
I think she did tremendous job. A tremendous job.
Yeah, I agree.
Screw up my English.
No, yeah, she did a tremendous job. I'll echo you on that. I think it was exactly like I wanted Ahsoka to be in my mind. And like merging realities is hard and it is full of friction because we've loved Ahsoka in another light. We've loved her with another voice. We've loved her with another look. But this is not supposed to be the Ahsoka that we already know. Like, she's had a lot of living between the last time we saw her. She's supposed to be different. And if she wasn't, then that would not be the character we love, that grows and changes and is dynamic. Like, she is a dynamic character, and that's what makes us love her. And so I was very excited with what she did. And I loved what Ashley posted on her Instagram. I don't know if you guys got to see like the passing of she like passed the baton of Ahsoka to her in a way that was really awesome. Really beautiful. I'll share the link with you guys later, but it was beautiful and it definitely made me tear up. And it was like along with this like new hashtag like Ahsoka lives in all of us. And so like just the hope that she embodies, and I think that this was the Ahsoka we needed for this time period.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I chalk it up to like this parallel that we could draw with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. It's still him, but there's some harsh realities that they're facing, and you know, Ahsoka may have changed slightly, but her smirk is still there. Her attitude, her quips, and her snips is still there. Mm-hmm. But you know, there was a lot of complaints as well about her mantril and her headdress being like shorter or smaller, and I'm trying really hard to find lore reasons why it would be that way. But at the end of the day, I'm chalking it up to practicality with live action.
I would much rather have her be able to move and have the right physicality than to have, you know, this huge, because I mean, when she got older, the montrals were huge and the Leku was super long. I could see that being problematic in a fight, or just the weight on top of the actor's head. I can also see potentially where
it looks like she's cutting off her Leku in like spins and flourishes.
Yeah, there's that, and also it might just look weird. You know what I mean? Like, for them to be so tall, you have to change how things are framed and everything. I don't know. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it myself because it seemed more practical, as well as anytime you're taking something from animation and bringing it into the real world, there's going to be differences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was also making a joke that everything was longer in Rebels, even Anakin.
Yeah. I mean, Darth Vader's eyes are like teardrops in Rebels. So yeah, it's animation. Like animation is like a caricature almost, expressing and extending what is already there. So I personally was not like, oh, I can't enjoy this episode because her Montral's in her Leku.
I was super happy that her striping was at least indicative of her age as well. And that's something we can fall back on in terms of lore. Because I know a lot of people cling to the old notion that Leku and Montrals are supposed to be longer as they age, but that's not necessarily the case. Physiologically speaking, it's always the striping and the pattern. And beyond the size and shape of the Leku is just her the way she embodied Ahsoka was just incredible. Lots of callbacks in this episode. Lots of callbacks. First, we have obviously Mirai on the branch, looking like an actual owl. The implications of Mirai in live action as well. Could we see flashbacks to the Mortis arc or something like that in live action. These are incredible things to think about.
Yeah.
We had a
I can't
callback.
handle it.
We had a callback to her Lux Montari mission when Din tied her up, and she had to jump up and free herself, and then at least she wasn't surrounded by Mandos at the time of her landing, so she couldn't decapitate anybody. But I thought that was an awesome callback to that scene when she was tied up, and then when she jumped up on the roof. It was, I don't know if it was an intentional callback, but I was having serious Siege of Mandalore vibes when she was deflecting all those laser blasts. Her fight with the Magistrate. There were so many moves that I recognized that came straight out of her fight with Maul.
Absolutely. I was waiting for her to use the move when she lost the lightsaber to pull it back.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted, but I'm okay with that.
You know what? I also have to point out they're kind of contradicting themselves, and they're giving me a hard time with this Beskar stuff. Briefly is the key word, right?
Well, but what I mean, how do we define brief? All of the fight with Din, I consider brief. I consider that entire fight to be very brief overall, but all the contact was brief. With the staff, yeah, there was times where she held it a bit longer, but you know, as far as a lightsaber's ability to cut Beskar, we already knew that it can deflect it. So the obvious conclusion is that we've seen Beskar be forged, right? So obviously there is a certain temperature that once it hits, it's going to get weaker.
Yeah, I wish we saw kind of like an aftermath of that, because, well, we kind of did, and then the staff looked intact. I wanted to see maybe it start to kind of sear through and kind of give a little bit. That's a small complaint. It's just making my job harder answering the Beskar question, but whatever. I mean, Beskar can handle lightsabers for more than 10 seconds. And then afterwards, it's, you know, free for all, I guess.
I mean, but my question is 10 seconds not brief?
It would depend, I guess. Different strokes for different folks, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what's brief? We keep on asking the same question. What's brief?
I mean, I'm wearing briefs. I don't know if
Are they
helps.
10-second briefs?
I have to go write a case brief. And that doesn't feel brief, I'll say that.
Let's touch on the lore and the background that was obviously mentioned with Ahsoka and Grogu. Vic, I want to go to you really quickly about her reference.
Oh, to Anakin?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. You knew it would kill me. So I wrote down in quotes, the best of us. And you see her, going back to how she embodied Ahsoka, like her posture. She embodied Ahsoka. But her posture when she spoke of Anakin was sincere. It was very sincere. And the reference that she couldn't train him because she saw what fear does to, you know, a fully trained Jedi Knight, to the best of us. And I felt her sincerity there, and it felt like real. It felt very real to me, and so it did move me emotionally. And all she's learned through the years, and I wonder in her fall of the Empire, like the fall of the Empire, what she felt, what she like. Did she feel him, like in his presence again? Like what were those moments like for her? Because she had to grow through those. She had to grow through the fact that she left him in Rebels. Like she had to go through all of these things. She's a very strong character.
Yeah.
And yeah. Wow.
Did you think that they would ever reference him in any way?
No, because like like, I guess we've talked about this in many different scenarios, but just the way he fell to obscurity, like Anakin in general just fell to obscurity. And then like in Bloodline, he was obscure again. Like everyone knew who Darth Vader was, but the name Anakin Skywalker, they were like, oh, who was that? And so for her to remember him with such high regard, for her to reference him, it was jarring, but it felt sincere and natural again, also because it was Ahsoka, and like a part of him is her. And yeah, I did not think that that reference was gonna come, but it did, and it hurt.
Yeah, it was really reminiscent of, you know, her referring to him in in Rebels when Ezra found the Hollow. And you know, that was her talking about him before she knew that he had become Vader. So yeah, I'm sure her perspective has changed, but that's one of the cool things is she still loves and cares for Anakin, the character. But this brings us kind of full circle because, you know, she's like, I can't train him because he has these attachments. And is she agreeing with the council now? I mean,
ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know.
That's a very tough one.
She might just like in agreeing in what way that attachment is bad.
I mean, yeah. That because of his attachment, if he did not have that attachment, she would train him, is what I got from it. But that may not necessarily be true, right? That wasn't explicitly stated, but if he did not have that attachment, I think she would have agreed.
I don't know. I think in a lot of ways she's jaded, and so she might have some sort of semblance of like agreement with that because attachments have left her with a heavy heart. But if we are thinking maybe she met Luke, what would that do for her view of attachment? Because you know he would tell her, and like he told Leia, oh, in those last moments he was Anakin Skywalker again, and like would she, like Leia, think no, absolutely not? Like I wonder her feelings if she did meet Luke on attachment, because attachment is what saved Anakin. It also like caused his downfall, but like ultimately, if she did meet Luke and she had that information, attachment would be in a different light, I would assume. I don't know.
I think when she says that, I think she's at least as much in agreement with them in terms of training the kid. I don't think, I mean, if I were in her shoes and I knew that he was in the same position as Anakin was, you know, already with a lot of attachment, and you knew what that did to someone you loved, I would probably say the same thing. Does that mean I agree with the council? Probably not. I think it's just an acknowledgement that attachment does bear a large effect on how you deal with things in your life. And while it's not a bad thing, as Obi-Wan says in the Clone Wars, you also have to acknowledge the underpinnings of remorse for not dealing with, you know, or not accepting your compassion and your emotions. So Obi-Wan at least minimally acknowledges that part of the code about attachment is fallible, and there's some wiggle room there. I mean, I don't think Ahsoka has come full circle and agrees with the order, but she knows what it can do, and she has her boundaries. But of course she came around, or at least was bartering with Din at that point. Like, you help me, I help you, you know. But she still couldn't do it. And before we move on, I do want to point out, you know, Grogu knew Yoda. I thought that scene was like when I was watching it again, I almost cried for that one too. I mean, he was just sitting there, chilling, and then she's like, "A wise Jedi Master Yoda," and then he looked at her, and then she nodded, and you could tell she was like confirming with him that he was gone. And then Grogu was just like looks back down and dejected, and I was just like, man, they all do know each other.
We got our hearts ripped out this episode.
And then, because I rewatched it, and then there's the subtle notes of Yoda's theme being played in there, and yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, if he was trained in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, he would know Yoda. Yoda's trained every single person out of that temple for the last 800 years. I used to make this joke, but, without context, they all know each other, their species. There's just them, Yoda and Yaddle, and that's their species. And if there was any other of their species, they would know each other. Now they do.
Now it's a reality. I thought his name was very powerful, and the use of his name and the way that Ahsoka insisted on the use of his name. That was really powerful to me, and I definitely cried a little because, and I wrote down like the reach of the Empire. And like so often we think of destruction of the Empire, we think of the destruction of the Jedi Temple, we think of the physical destruction of Alderaan, but often we forget about like the identity erasure that the Empire was a part of, that was part of their control. They were part of making a monolithic reality that was just the Empire, and anything outside of that vision was erased. And so the fact that he was called the child, and then now the like insistence of the use of his name and the way that he reacted to the use of his name and getting to be who he is, like it was really powerful.
That was a special moment when Din finally says it and he looks up, he's like, "Bah!"
It's just like his reactions are so adorable.
So cute.
Said it.
Oh, it's so good.
I am also happy that his name is not a derivative of Yoda.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I was expecting him to be like
Yodai.
This is Yodel.
Hey, you like, making fun of Giddle in the back? Well, behind my green screen. I think Giddle is a cute name.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna tell a joke.
No, go for it.
So, okay, my mom told me this joke the other day, and she was like, "All right, you've been on these Star Wars podcasts. You have a Star Wars TikTok. I bet you don't know this piece of Star Wars lore. What's Yoda's last name?" And I was like, Yoda? And she's like, Leahy-hoo. Get it? Yoda Leahy-hoo. It's an old one, but it's a good one.
It's an older joke, but it checks out.
Out. I love it. I did want to mention one more thing about Ahsoka. Okay, this is a stretch, and it doesn't, like, I'm not saying it is, but I got hallway scene vibes when she was at the end of the pathway, and she was standing across from the magistrate and her guards, and she was standing at the end of that long, narrow path. I was like, ignite your lightsaber, ignite your lightsaber. But obviously she didn't, but she walked with this calm demeanor, and the lanterns around her, just this embodiment of light. I was like, this is so beautiful, and it's a stretch, but I'm making it.
She did have her own sort of, I guess, recreation of that scene when she was behind those two guards, and then she went.
Yeah, it was so beautiful.
That was hers. Like, of course, Vader's gonna do that and just be all up in their faces in the hallway, but Ahsoka is gonna have her moment where she's just like being a ninja.
Yeah.
And she's just taking them out like all stealth-like.
Oh,
which I gotta
beautiful.
say is my favorite part of having them really draw upon both influences of the Western and the samurai film at the same time.
Yeah.
Where there's a Mexican standoff happening outside, and then right over there on a serene, Japanese style garden, two warriors facing off, swords versus shield or versus spear. It was just really cool to have, you know, both Man with No Name is outside and Kurosawa is inside.
Yeah.
It's just really neat. And we didn't mention the Loth Cat showing up.
Yeah.
I was gonna touch on that.
Oh, my bad.
But the magistrate fight, it gives us another look at Ahsoka and the fact that she is the most lethal fighter in the world when you remove one saber from her. It's like she's toying with you, and then if you disarm one of her lightsabers, she turns it on.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just the most dangerous person in the world. Like, you think she's dangerous with her two lightsabers, and you manage to get one out of her hand, you're like, I probably shouldn't have done that. And now she's just gonna go ham on you. I thought that was awesome.
It was very like, if you make Bruce Lee bleed.
Yeah. He's gonna taste it and go.
Yeah. Oh man. What did you guys think of her fighting Saya? Because she really only went the reverse grip at the very end.
I mean, I thought it made sense. Like, again, her fight with the Magistrate was at least 70%. You know, a callback to her fight with Maul. You know, with her flourishes and her downstrokes blocking the staff, because staff versus swords, mm-hmm. It was the same kind of composition of a fight. And honestly, like, I thought it was the right mixture of style versus practicality, because like I didn't want them to, you know, go full 100% Clone Wars Ahsoka. It just wouldn't have, like, I appreciated this is our third depiction of Force speed. When she jumped up from the ground to the roof, and I appreciated how much they'd reined in her style, and so I wasn't expecting too much. I wasn't expecting her to do a leap spin slash to Vader's mask like she did in Rebels, but I was expecting her to look like she knew what she was doing, and that's what they did with the episode.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was, like you said, a lovely balance in the, like, I don't want to say flashy, but I am absolutely not trained in fighting styles whatsoever. But the flourishes, the like acrobatics, how agile she is, I love that we saw tastes of that without it being absurd.
Yeah.
Like the Dooku Anakin fight in Attack of the Clones.
I would have loved it if there was a bunch of Mando surrounding her when she was tied up.
Yeah.
Just to hear the chimes of all that Beskar hitting the ground.
Yeah. That would be crazy. But I was gonna say, I looked this up just to make sure I was like educated on this before I spoke on it, but the Magistrate is Bruce Lee's goddaughter. And I thought that was really amazing. And I heard that she did a lot of her own work, like stunt work. But I am not seeing any of that, so don't take it as fact. But
so
I would assume
as Rosario Dawson did go through the Marvel Netflix series, she became more and more proficient at fighting. I believe she was fighting with dual like fist claws when we got to Defenders and that type of thing. But yeah, the actress herself has great physicality and like knows what she's doing. I mean, I'm sure they use stunt doubles and stuff like that, but Rosario Dawson does know how to handle herself, and so I was stoked that we got her in there.
When she escaped the tie-up from the first time and flipped over the branch, and she
kind of smirked at him first.
Yeah, she also, when she took out her sabers from her back, did that cross unsheath, and then turned around and to put her arm forward with it. That stance, you saw her shoulder muscles, and I was like,
I like passed out.
You've been lifting.
Same.
I passed out. I paused it and I was like, I'm just gonna look at that for a second. Wow. Amazing.
I mean, things that make you say, hello there.
Oh man, she did an incredible job. This was an incredible episode. I think they nailed it. They nailed everything they needed to nail. Her fighting, her costume, her mantras and Leku. Nothing was overbearing and nothing was straight up incorrect with that episode.
Dave Filoni knows what he is doing.
He does.
You know, he
and Filoni
is.
we trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm thinking of another meme I created.
Oh no, you have to share it. All memes must be shared.
No, it does really just add to, you know, my faith in the direction. You know, I know not everything has been as loved, but what I think was needed is another Clone Wars, and I still think we need something separate from this, but this is certainly helping. You know, it's
Yeah.
and go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think this is the last of Ahsoka that we'll see in this?
No.
I do not think it's the last that we shall see of her, but I don't know that she'll come back in this season.
Yeah.
Maybe final episode, but yeah. And if you're curious, I just put my
That's what
memes
I'm ready.
about.
I'm ready. Oh, Obi-Wan and JPEG. I love it. That's so good.
It's a smile.
Yeah,
I think this what this show is serving as, like we've been saying the past couple of weeks, is that it's a vehicle for, you know, establishing a lot of sequel shows that we need. Definitely a backdoor pilot for Ahsoka spinoff. And I think the more I think about it, I think this isn't the last we've seen of her, but the more we see of her is going to be in her show, and it's going to be about Thrawn. So I think they're setting up, at least they're setting up like a microcosm within Mandalorian where we see this seed of a story bloom with Thrawn, Ahsoka, and that story is going to kind of like cannonball into her spin-off. And what's going to be interesting is if they make the shows in tandem. If they make the timelines between the shows the same time, like it's not Ahsoka spin-off and it's just her time on Raida or Raida.
Raida, yeah.
And instead it's her doing this while Din's doing that, and soon in some episodes will cross over and they meet each other. And so
You're saying Star Wars needs their own CW verse.
I think they already have it with Disney Plus. It's bound to happen, and it's going to happen first with Mandalorian and Ahsoka. And I think they both are so polarizing that they need their own shows, and they need different tracks to travel on. It's narratively, but where those tracks converge is a great story with a bigger bad in Thrawn, and then back to Din's arc with Bo-Katan and the Darksaber with Gideon, and then back to the track with Ahsoka with all of the other Jedi. And I want to go to this next point with this latest episode is Ahsoka talking about Tython. We've already discussed Tython having been canonized already from Legends, but she says he's going to reach out with the Force on this Seeing Stone, and depending on the path he chooses, a Jedi may find him. And so, of course, with all of the teasing with the Loth Cats and Thrawn and all of the characters we've seen thus far, sans Sabine, I'm thinking Ezra is the most likely candidate to find him because we have to resolve that story. Thrawn's just back and Ezra's nah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's just quite a few possibilities. I as a huge proponent of Mace Windu is rest in pepperonis, because if he did survive, what has he been doing? Like, where is he? He's not the type to run like that. However, if we have a place like Tython, I could see him going there, with his love of trying to serve the Republic, and the Republic falls. I could see that. So this is the first time I'm ever considering that. The person I want a grizzled old Quinlan Voss to show up. He understands attachment big time. He understands loss. He went full dark, came back to light. I think he might be a great source of teaching. But who knows? This is Tython. Maybe you get there, there's already people there. Maybe maybe the Jedi are still there and separate. How do you get to Tython? I don't know. Is Tython still in the inner core? And
I think Tython would be, well, since we've never heard of it thus far, it would most likely be in the unknown regions. But you bring up a good point with separate, because I've been getting a lot of comments on my TikToks about this episode where people are like, just default, what about Luke? And when you bring up Quinlan Voss, and you bring up the possibility that Cal Kestis could be there, or Ezra, or just a separate group, it blows my mind to think that this possibility isn't present in a lot of fans' minds. That the story of the galaxy isn't revolving around the Skywalkers. Like, just because Luke was part of the saga films, that doesn't mean he's the only Jedi, or that the story just, the buck stops with Luke, right? Quinlan Voss could still be alive, and although the Star Wars book says that Mace Windu is status deceased, I think he could still be a survivor. And there could be a whole host of Jedi, like Kyle Katarn, who have nothing to do with the Skywalker saga, but they have maintained this religion through surviving through the Empire. And then since the Empire has fallen, they're coming out of the woodwork, and meanwhile, the story of Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka and Rey and the sequel trilogies goes on, and that's their own story. But these people still have a story to be told, and just because the Jedi are now involved narratively, it doesn't have to be Luke. Or it doesn't have to be Luke's Padawans, or Jedi associated with Luke. So, when you said Quinlan Voss, I was like, or a separate Jedi, I was like, it's interesting how little I've thought of the scope of the galaxy when it comes to Jedi and Sith. There could be more Sith out there. And they have nothing to do with Vader.
I would be surprised if there weren't.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we actually know that the Sith at one time were at war with the Chiss Ascendancy, and they come from the unknown region. That's how Palpatine found Exegol. Is there was something from outside of the galaxy calling to him, which was talked about in the Tarkin book. And that's what set off this chain of events of him searching and building these observatories on the far reaches of the galaxy, and him having Thrawn try to map out as much of the chaos and stuff as possible. The Sith Eternal were already there.
Yeah.
He didn't bring them. So yeah, there's a huge possibility that there's more of them out there as well.
That'll be cool to see.
Yeah.
Just a
The Star Wars
different track of
universe.
Jedi.
Yeah, the Star Wars universe is so vast, and you're so right that we often get caught up in the linear with the Skywalkers, and there is so much more than that. And I'm so happy we're getting tastes of these divergences.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what would be funny to see if it is Quinlan Voss or someone that's just completely separate? Is if like Ahsoka's in the episode and then they meet up on Tython
And
they're like, what's happening with Luke Skywalker? And Quinlan's like, he's just doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing over here. I'm not worried about that. You know, we have our own emperor to deal with. His name is Vitiate. Like, what? We're crossing streams over here.
That would just... Whew. Woo. Sorry, I really love the whole Fate of the Jedi series, where Luke and his son team up with a couple people from the lost tribe of the Sith in order to try and take down Abeloth, and like interesting shenanigans occur.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, bringing certain things, I really love that. I feel like Disney gets a bad rap because of making an established canon, and I think a lot of people didn't realize that the legend stories were never part of canon, right? There was tiers. There was G canon, which was George Lucas canon, and everything else there was S canon,
Yes.
N canon,
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. And I love that they're taking these things that were never part of G canon and they're bringing it into the universe and planting the flag. This is a thing now. That's really cool to me.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's gotten to a point with the books in the comics where new canon is rivaling EU and Legends at this point. It's like
it's past it in my opinion already. I mean, I've still read twice as many Legends books as I have canon ones, but the overall quality is higher, and the attention to lore and what came before and other stories is just higher.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like if it's a canon book or comic, it's more consistent with the timeline and canon as a whole, whereas some parts of Legends were convoluted and didn't really make sense with the other parts of the timelines, and some stories were contradictory, and there was no arbiter for lore, right? The story group was established with the Disney purchase, and so when the story group came, everyone was like, this is where the story is, everyone's got to fit into this story, and this is canon. And so if you're writing a book, if you're writing a comic, please refer to this Bible, because if it contradicts, you're not going to be in prime canon. And I love it. Disney definitely saved Star Wars on that front, for sure. Any other Jedi? Have we missed anybody that could Anakin come back? No, I'm just kidding.
Don't start with that one. Don't you start with that one.
Hey, I mean, I've gotten some comments where some people think it might be a Force ghost that answers Grogu.
That was my first instinct, to be honest. I didn't even entertain a physical Jedi coming to meet Grogu. I was like, it's automatically going to be a Force ghost party.
So
I just assumed. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, I would love for it to be someone like Ezra, like Quinlan Voss, like Cal Kestis. That would be amazing. But yeah, I think my initial thought was a Force ghost.
Yeah.
And I guess my initial thought was Yoda.
And I would love to see that, but and that's where it gets weird for me, because Grogu doesn't talk, and Din wouldn't be able to see the Force ghost. Not likely. Now, who knows? Maybe Tython is such a big vergence in the light side that then could see him. I don't know. But
Yoda's good at speaking for two people, though. I mean, just like Ahsoka did in this episode, Yoda could definitely just he said, she said.
Provided that Din can see him.
I think he will.
Okay. Yeah. So if that was my only thing is if a Force Ghost shows up, but one of the people can't talk, it might be might be a little bit weird. But again, in Filoni, I trust. I don't believe he'll steer us wrong in this regard. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, somebody was like, yeah, you know, Ewan McGregor was on set in his Obi-Wan costume.
Oh, dear.
And, you know, that's how rumors get started. But I think they were saying he was just there to support on set one day.
In cosplay? In full cosplay?
Who knows?
I'm going to say it right now. If it's Quinlan Voss, I'm putting my foot down. Cliff Curtis should play him.
I loved that fan cast.
So you know this one.
No, but you showed the picture, and so I was like, yes. Okay.
Yeah, Cliff Curtis, if you saw him in 10,000 BC, definitely looks like Quinlan Voss in that movie, and then he would be the right age.
Yeah, I can see it. That'd be sick. I just had to look it up myself, so.
Real quick, if it is a Force Ghost that finds Grogu, and it's Anakin Skywalker, do you think there's going to be some sort of kind of, like, reverse, like foot on the other shoe type of situation where he's like, I sense much fear in you.
Oh man.
I will not train you.
I can't even think of, I'm gonna be honest with you, I cannot even think about that reality.
I don't want it to be that because
that'd be a little bit too out of
too
pocket.
much.
It would A, be too much, and B, like give Grogu like Vietnam flashbacks.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this guy, the one that killed all of my friends.
All of my friends.
Cool. How's it going? No.
Yeah.
I got better. Oh yeah, sure.
Like constantly like.
There's even rumors that Gunji might have survived as well. Like they took all of the off-world species and just let the kids that were in the classroom die. I don't know the narrative or the story behind it.
That's so bad.
But some of them may have survived. Some of those younglings that we saw in the gathering may have survived. And then just the specific ones we saw Anakin draw his saber on were the ones that died. And so if that's the case, we didn't see Grogu. We didn't see Gunji. We didn't see...
Who was the Rodian girl?
Twi'lek?
I loved her.
Oh, the little Rodian girl? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Little starry-eyed. That's what species I would be in Star Wars.
Rodian.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited for the future of what all of this means. Like, it's just like Pandora's box or something, because it's like each episode seems to open up possibilities for a new something, you know? And so I think like the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special, it's braiding all of these things that we already love, but it's also opening possibilities for so many new things and new realities for us to find new characters to fall in love with, new stories. I will say another final thought from this episode in particular, I didn't realize how much I missed a good lightsaber. I'm a very simple fan. Give me some laser swords. I love it.
I'm right there with you.
But I really loved that, and it was a really exciting episode.
And for me, I really like that they said laser swords.
Yeah, is that it too?
That made me happy. As well,
JKP.
Yeah. as well as you gotta see, man, like it's one thing to watch it in animation, but to see how dangerous a Jedi, like a trained Jedi, actually is, where like you have the city and you have like these giant walls and posts and they mean nothing. She hops up on top takes everyone down, drops into this. Like, how do you stop this? I did enjoy that.
Apparently, the magistrate thought that all it took was a pure Beskar staff, but that didn't work out.
One last thing that also had me spinning. Ahsoka was asking, "Where is your master?" What does she mean, master?
I mean, I definitely think Thrawn was her teacher. Okay. If you're gonna fight Ahsoka 1-to-1 and disarm her, you're gonna learn from Thrawn.
And we do know that Thrawn is an experienced fighter, and he does know staffs and then dual wielding sticks and stuff like that. But saying the word master makes me wonder how much of the Force that Thrawn has unraveled, because if he's been trapped with Ezra for any amount of time, I'm sure he started uncovering some of the secrets. I'm sure at some point he started training Ezra of like, yeah, you're doing this, but you're also kind of dumb, so try doing it this way or whatever.
And are you insinuating that Thrawn could be Force sensitive?
No. I don't think he's Force sensitive, but I do think that that Thrawn may have a whole new bag of tricks next time we see him, and he may know the Force better than most people at this point.
Interesting thought. I don't know. I think of the master at least in that context with just training that magistrate. If he knew anything about the Force, she wasn't Force sensitive, so he could have taught her the ways in the Force or to be prepared for it. This just makes me so much more hyped to see what they do with Thrawn if they show him in this. I don't think they're going to show him this season, but I mean, we'll eventually see him there. Okay, so we are out of time for our main segments of Dyad and the Force. We are moving on to this new short miniature segment we're going to call Q&A. How original. So we'll spend the next 10 minutes taking questions from comments you've left on our TikToks and on this YouTube video. If you are watching this on YouTube, leave your comments and questions in the comment section below so that we can address these questions in the next episode.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I got asked, and of course, we kind of understand it, but it's a very common and popular topic, and it's what, if anything, is the meaning behind Rey having a yellow lightsaber, yellow or gold, and then it was also extended to Ahsoka having white sabers.
Lightsaber colors having meanings was the Legends concept, right? And so it's more about their identity and what the crystal feels at that moment of attunement. And I think identity is a good word for Rey, because if it is like yellow or gold, then it kind of lends credence to the Temple Guardian role, because they would have detached themselves from all forms of identity. So I don't know how that plays in with yellow and the meaning that people have for that color. And Ahsoka is she's just an avatar of light.
Yeah, and then also on the Ahsoka topic, we kind of find out more about this in the Ahsoka book. She actually took her crystals from one of the Inquisitors, and so the Inquisitor had a red lightsaber, right? 2 crystals, as it was, double plated, and they were red because he had already bled those crystals, right? You pour your hatred and anger and all these negative emotions to overwhelm, the sentience of the crystal, and it turns red. It's called bleeding the crystal. And when Ahsoka got the crystals, she purified it. She removed that, and her lightsabers turned white. Now, whether all purified crystals turn white, or if it was something to do with her or the crystal's choice, we don't have that exact details, but that's how she got her white lightsaber blades, from purifying lightsabers from one of the Inquisitors.
I'm gonna field this question to the both of you. Carl Rules asks, I don't know if this is right, but is Ahsoka a great Jedi?
Well, yeah. I mean, the long and short of it is, great Jedi aren't really a thing in canon, and the two Legends definitions being that either they're walking the line between the dark side and the light, which we know someone can't do. Many have tried, none have succeeded.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Quinlan. And the other one being someone that is not aligned with the Jedi Council, right? And that's something that some people try to point to, but again, the term gray is used because it's in between two different things, right? Ahsoka's disagreements with the Jedi Council and her leaving the Jedi could be primed for that, but she continued to serve the light and just the light and serve it in the way that the Jedi should have been. And so by that terminology, no, she doesn't meet either qualification. And to be a true gray Jedi, you have to meet both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have to be a Jedi, first of all.
Yeah. On my end, I usually respond with it. It really diminishes the significance of Darth Vader's turn and his journey back to the light, if you even acknowledge the existence of gray Jedi in our current canon. Because, as we know from his conversations with Momin, if you don't feed the dark side, it feeds on you. And just the idea of dark side being an all-consuming entity, as something that consumes you, your identity, your personage, everything. We spoke on this briefly in your Return of the Jedi podcast. It's like his journey back to Anakin Skywalker was not, I've been a dark side user for all these years and now I'm just gonna make this one decision and be a good person and save my son. It was not that. It was tooth and nail. Like, he made a long string of decisions, a long string of clawing his way out of the dark side. And so it's like saying the existence of gray
Jedi. No legs and one arm.
Yeah, exactly. So, to me, as someone who loves Darth Vader wholeheartedly and loves his redemption, I don't think you can acknowledge the existence of gray Jedi and say that Darth Vader's redemption has any significance.
Awesome.
That's my take on it. So I'm sorry I got so heated.
No, that was excellent, because I never even considered it from that point of view, and that changes my thoughts on a lot of things. Like,
that's what you do, Vic.
If
didn't cry though, so that's good.
People say that Palpatine returning ruins Anakin's sacrifice, but those same people want gray Jedi, which ruins Anakin, actually ruins his sacrifice.
Yeah.
He could have just, so I can just do this and not be bad? Cool.
Yeah.
Sean Lar 1524 asks if you can add one video game character unrelated to Star Wars into canon, who would it be and how would you add them into canon?
So you
unrelated to Star Wars? Like, are we talking like Mario and Luigi?
Could be
anyone.
Although I could imagine Bowser as a Sith Lord with like a big old thick lightsaber, like that'd be terrifying, you know what I mean? But I like the question. Who did you come up with, Element?
I actually thought Nathan Drake would fit very well as a kind of like a roguish, rugged smuggler type that is kind of, I don't want to say it, but like a Han Solo clone, where, I mean, he's kind of like Dash Rendar also. So I think how I would put Nathan Drake in there is the same way that Solo had his upbringing. He's an orphan, got raised by a syndicate on Corellia. I'm just reciting Solo. He's a smuggler. He fits in as a smuggler, or a treasure hunter, as he does in Uncharted, and he's kind of like Dr. Aphra, and at that point as well. So
yeah, I love that. I mean, because I could definitely see him as someone who who loves treasure hunting. That's his thing. The only thing he wants to do, and he smuggles just to get enough money to do the job, to search for the thing that he wants, and gets into all sorts of shenanigans.
Yeah, I love that question. That's such a creative question, and I love questions that make you think about stuff like that. But I am gonna be basic, and I might say Link. I think it'd be so cool. Like Link.
Is he Yoda species?
Like, I don't know. That's kind of basic. I'm sorry, but I
Yeah,
think
it's not
Link
basic.
is just.
I'm just, pointy ears. Is he part of Yoda species?
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
Yoda, yeah.
I'm interested maybe he wouldn't be a Jedi, but maybe he would. I don't know.
If he wasn't, then what would he be? How would you put him in?
Oh man. I feel like I need longer to think about this, but I'm not usually one for heroes. I will say that. Like I always like find a really interesting story in a villain. So I think it would be nice to see. I loved like the Breath of the Wild concept that he was like frozen or like asleep for 100 years and lost all of his memories. So maybe he was like a Jedi and he survived Order 66. I'm sorry, so basic, because he was like asleep. And
he was a sorcerer of Tund and was on Tython this whole time.
Yeah. See, you're better at this than I am.
No, I love that too, because if you play Breath of the Wild, what if that planet was Tython? Like that does sound reasonable, and there's all that Sheikah technology of this ancient race, and maybe those were the first people to discover hyperdrives and leave the planet, and this is all happening within it. So yeah, he may not be a Jedi, but he could be a great warrior who is uncovering how to leave his galaxy and continue out. All right, so my favorite game series is Mass Effect, and there's a lot of possibility for crossover because it's just BioWare, but specifically,
I'm changing my answer.
Specifically the Quarrens, because I love the concept of the Quarrens and the Geth that they created. And Talizora is
yes.
Woo! I love Talizora.
As soon as you said Mass Effect, that's what I was going to say.
Tech wizard, super awesome hacker, in this bio suit because her species created robots to help. Eventually, those robots took over their planet and ousted them, and they've lived in a big colony of spaceships, and they've been on these spaceships for so long that as a species their immune systems are really low, and so they're all in these suits, and I think that would be a really fascinating group to run into in Star Wars and have this. Obi-Wan says the line, if droids could think, none of us would be here. And this would be an extrapolation of that.
Man, they already kind of like, you can copy paste that group and put them into Star Wars and they would fit right in. And speaking of video games, in addition to yours, the one that you've been talking about, this open world thing, I want a Red Dead Redemption around Dash Rendar, and I want to be able to romance Satele Shan.
I love like the hair. You're like romance.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I love it.
Nothing wrong with that.
I get this question a lot because I make Darth Vader content. How the sequels did not ruin his sacrifice.
Oh, well, that's a short answer for me.
Yeah, same.
I mean, he brought peace to the galaxy for 30 years. And
I mean, yeah, like for me, like it could be a 3-hour answer, but my short answer is like his whole life was being done for these large things, and he devoted himself to things bigger than him. And in that moment, he was Anakin Skywalker saving his son. And while, yes, it did bring balance to the Force, yes, it did in effect destabilize the Empire and momentarily like relieve Palpatine of his emperorship. But it's like he did that as a person rather than as a Jedi or as this entity that was his whole life was for other people, and that moment was for him. And to me, I think that's what makes his sacrifice so beautiful, is it was not done to kill Palpatine, it was done to save his son.
Yeah.
And so it just that shift in perspective, I will admit, the moment I was like, Palpatine's back, but it just because like it made sense to me didn't mean I didn't like it, or didn't mean I liked it. And so I think ultimately I'm glad Palpatine's back, because it almost solidified that he did it for himself and for Luke, and it was not for this greater galaxy that he has sacrificed his entire life for. In that moment, it was only about his personage, his identity, and it allowed him to be himself rather than the chosen one.
My short to middling answer added on top of yours is that a lot of people think that bringing balance to the Force is just that, right?
Yeah.
I think balance started a long time ago with the fall of the Jedi Order, to the Empire coming to power, and then to him saving his son, to the destabilization of the Empire, and then just like I think the will of the Force is just a dick sometimes. It doesn't really have anything in mind. It doesn't really hasn't made up his mind yet.
Well,
sometimes it's like in
water.
a state of balance where it's just like, maybe I'm not in balance. I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, where I jump into it is that I go straight to when Darth Maul regains his conscience, when he's no longer a big spider monster. And he's like, oh, there's been a shift in the Force, and like he's recognizing the change that's been happening. The Force doesn't belong to the Jedi, it doesn't belong to the Sith or any single person. It is all life. And it's been destabilized with all these wars and all the death and all the destruction, and the Empire spread darkness across the entire galaxy, across all of the galaxy, right? Imagine you're spreading jelly all over your toast.
Yeah.
And you cover it. Well, because of Anakin's sacrifice, they were able to remove all that, find balance, get back to a state of equilibrium. And I think there's a common issue where people think that the First Order was as big or as powerful as the Empire. They weren't. They had the potential to become that, and that's what they stopped. But again, if your toast is clear and you have the potential to put jelly on it, but you don't, it didn't ruin the balance, right? So Palpatine's return doesn't affect the balance at all, and she stopped him before he could. Yeah. That was a stupid analogy. I apologize.
No, I loved it. I loved it. And I loved what you said about the will of the Force and water. I tend to always, just like in my own mind, I always liken like Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader to like classic poetry, because I love poetry. And so John Keats, his epitaph is, here lies a man whose name was writ in water. And just that is so beautiful to me, because it insinuates the temporary, like your entire legacy is ultimately nothing. But it also like insinuates the idea of ripples, and like the will of the Force being water is just so beautiful. And I'm gonna ponder that a little bit more, so I don't go off on a tangent now, maybe later.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of
I may have a short story for you, Victoria.
I'm ready.
There's a story in the Legends of Luke Skywalker book. Overall, I think that book was mostly bad, and I don't recommend it to people, because I didn't. The vast majority of that book is not readable, but But there's a story about Luke going to find this Force-sensitive group who refers to the Force as the Tide. And they don't see one part or the other. It is, the tide waxes and wanes, and they just have an entirely different view of it. And, Luke's problem was that he was so intent on controlling the tide that he didn't trust that it would do what he needed it to do. And I always thought that was beautiful because...
That is beautiful. I wrote it down.
Yeah. I'll send you that short story.
I mean, at the end of the day, bringing balance to the Force does not mean you're going to completely eliminate evil from rising ever again. Because then that just means that, like, you have found the very Deus Ex Machina that eliminates all need for story.
Yeah.
You've cured it. You've cured the galaxy of anything ever having happened to it ever again.
Yeah, and I don't like the insinuation that good is just one choice, or like what you said, it's like not one thing. I like the insinuation that balance, like you guys always insist, it's like a constant shift, a constant realignment. It's a dynamic balance. It's not stagnant.
Yeah, it never makes up its mind.
The best place to learn balance is in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Listen, just because you hit balance, the meter's way over here, you bring it back. It's not going to stay. And in Star Wars, there's no happily ever after. If that's what you were expecting, it's not
right
there. Everyone's stories continue, and they're still the same imperfect people that they were at the beginning. I think that's a large part of some people's problems with the sequel trilogy, is because Luke wasn't perfect. Of course, the first time we saw the original trilogy, Obi-Wan wasn't perfect. And we got to see how awesome and how loving and caring and stuff he was in the prequels, but we know how he ended. Same thing with Luke, same thing with everyone. It's all temporary. I did have another question that I was asked is, how come Anakin's Force Ghost didn't just defeat Palpatine? Basically, how come if Force Ghosts can interact with the real world, how come they didn't fight at the end?
Because, I mean, this is a loaded question. I think the simple of it is they can't. Like, I mean, being part of the living force means that you're also part of the will. And if the will of the Force is making what's happening with Rey happen, then they have to go along with the flow of it. And if he's going to diverge in any way and try to appear and defeat Palpatine on his own, that's kind of what's going to throw it out of balance, I think. So I think that's the hugely the lesson there when Obi-Wan says, "I cannot interfere." So I think it's just the will of the Force telling them. I mean, and you get this idea from Master and Apprentice from a certain point of view, when Qui-Gon is telling us that he knows everything that's going to happen ever as a Force Ghost. They have that knowledge, and so they already know what's going to happen. They're not going to interfere. They're not going to try to inch it towards their favor, so I think they already saw the outcome of that fight, and they were like, "We will not interfere."
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it.
We'll give her exactly what she needs, no more and no less.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of what I was going to say, is like, because he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds like such a dumb answer, but it's like, give this guy a break, really.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have to, so why should he?
And you're totally right. It's a loaded question because the core of the question is, I like Anakin and I want Anakin to do everything.
It's kind
I
of
like Anakin, and I'm glad he doesn't have to, because he has lived a life serving these large things, and he doesn't have to. And he doesn't have to fight anymore. He doesn't have to stand up to Palpatine. He doesn't have to go through any of that anymore.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
It's kind of like the same thing with the comments that I got on my Tross alternate ending.
Mm-hmm.
I know they mean well, but when they leave the comment, this would have fixed the entire sequel trilogy just by having Anakin in that last scene. My thought when I read that is like, wow, like your constitution is so reason. Yeah, your constitution is so weak that all it would take is just seeing Anakin, and all of your problems with the sequels magically disappear. And so, like, yeah, sometimes I think a lot of fans just want to see Anakin again.
Mm-hmm. I think also maybe something I read from this question is the idea of it being justice, that he should have gotten to defeat Palpatine. And I think the opposite. I think it's justice that he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to fight anymore.
I think it's justice that everyone got to.
Yeah, everyone was a part of this, you know?
She was all the Jedi. Mace got revenge for his, the balcony scene. And
yeah.
All of the Jedi got revenge for Order 66. So everyone got their justice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, last question, quick one. What is Shatterpoint?
Look up Karnak from the Inhumans.
I mean, I know I can answer this, but content, people. What is Shatterpoint? Anyone can answer. Let's go.
So, yeah, Mace Windu had... now, this ability has not, to my knowledge, been directly referred to in canon. So, I will leave that out there. However, Mace Windu had this ability to see how things were interconnected, which is an amazing ability. And I almost harken it to like a connection to the cosmic force of seeing how these things are put together, past and present, in order to know what needs to be done at what point, or how to best defeat whatever this is. The biggest place it comes into play in my mind is in the Matthew Stover novelization of Revenge of the Sith, where basically you're seeing all of these strings of possible realities coming together, and he's fighting Palpatine, and he has the upper hand. He he's going to win this fight until Anakin shows up, and he sees that Anakin is the Shatterpoint. Anakin is the fulcrum that good and evil are balanced on right now, and what he does is going to determine the fate of this galaxy. Shatterpoint is the ability to see that.
Very nice. Well said. If I had to give an anime parallel, it would have to be from Kimetsu no Yaiba, where he sees the string, the tension, like tightens all the way. When he sees that string tighten, that's his chance to strike, and he strikes that chance, and then that's the death blow. Have you seen Demon Slayer at all?
Yes.
Do you watch anime?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I just started. So I mentioned that it is kind of a long backstory, but I grew up in a very strict dance environment, and so I didn't do like hobbies, and so my pop culture and like immersion and things like that started late. So I'm like filling my brain with as much as I can. I'm in the middle of Shippuden right now.
Nice.
Yes.
Man,
so you went fast.
I did go fast. Oh gosh.
You gotta take the test.
Where are you?
My quizzes.
Okay, so I guess spoilers, I don't know. But so y'all have both seen it, but I'm at the part where Sai just joined Team Kakashi and they went to Orochimaru's hideout and they saw Sasuke and that did not go well.
So the scene from the first episode, you got to see how
finally saw it play out. But y'all have noticed my my VeggieTale Gaara profile picture in the Discord. But yeah, it is been a wild ride.
I wish I could have seen your reaction to Gaara in the first bit there versus Deidara.
Oh my gosh,
And
I
then
was in
with old
tears.
lady Chio.
Yes, oh my gosh, Gray Chio, I was like so I watch anime like I watch sports. Like I'm like standing in my chair and like which I don't watch a lot of sports, but if I did, that's how I would watch it.
Like Spider-Man. I like it.
I'm like, oh my gosh, what's about to happen? So it's been a wild ride. I'm really thankful to be here. I mentioned this in your Return of the Jedi podcast, but this has been a very isolating time, and so I'm very happy that we have Star Wars to connect over, and I'm just really happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
It's an honor.
I'm stoked I get to hang out with my two favorite content creators.
This has been the best day ever.
We are out of time. This is the end of Dyad in the Force episode 4. I would like to thank It's Victorial for hanging out with us for well past what seems to be the normal runtime for when we have guests. Darth Choco as well. Go follow him. Go follow his Twitch, his YouTube, his TikTok. He streams on Wednesdays for his podcast, so go check that out. It's Victoria, y'all, on TikTok, Instagram. Follow everybody, and on to the next one. May the Force be with you.